I'm in my prison for like 12 years, 11 or 12 years. And I start moving on the next half.
Which is when you met Carol, right?
And this is a great story because it's through this publishing that these students start researching me on the internet. And I'd known Carol because we went to school together, but she...
Was it middle school? What?
Elementary school.
Elementary school.
But we were not friends.
Okay.
You know, I was a very fast crowd and she was a good girl. So
And you guys were in the same grade?
We were in the same grade.
But not friends.
And what happens is we graduated in 1982. So in 2001, they're coordinating the 20-year reunion for that 1980 class of 1982. And she's the one that's coordinating it. And she receives a message from somebody that we don't know who it was. It was a student someplace. Said, is this the same high school where Michael Santos went to school? And she said, yes. Why are you asking? And he says, well, he's in prison.
Huh. And she remembered who you were.
Oh, yes. So, probably not hard to forget.
Because everybody knew in school that you ended up in prison, I guess?
I would say so. But we were only, you know, at high school, you're a senior class. Right. Everybody knows everybody. And everybody certainly, I knew everybody. Right. So I got a letter from her that was not the kind of letter I wanted to get. It was just, I'm a mother of 2 children. I hate drugs. They're so bad. I always knew you were a bad kid, but it was like that kind of a letter. And she said, we're doing our 20-year reunion. And I thought maybe you'd want to see some pictures.
So wait a second, because I read something that had some of her quotes about this moment. And I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but what I remember is that she said something that she found out which prison you were at. And she saw a photo of you, perhaps in one of your books or something.
Well, I had an internet page by that time.
Okay, internet page. And she saw this photo and something in her told her that I think not only did she find you very attractive, but she thought that this was a man that she needed to meet or something, right? Or
yes, and I would say that's probably accurate, but the first letter she wrote was mother and drugs. Yes. And bad.
You're an asshole.
Yeah, kind of. You shouldn't sell drugs.
Well, it could work as a strategy.
And so I remember showing it to somebody in prison, my friends. Look, she seems very angry with me, She's probably a Republican. She said she should be on Fox News, So I showed it to him, and I said, "Well, I'll bet you an ice cream I can make her my girlfriend." And that's how it started.
Way.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Everything has to be a challenge.
That's how you have to do in prison. You have to find a way.
I can see that. Yeah.
So I write to her letter. You're right. I made a lot of really bad decisions. I was 20. I'm 35 now. And, I've done some things in prison. I'm trying to change my life. And, I'd love to have a correspondence. And that starts, I'm thank you for sharing these pictures. And that leads her to soften up. And she writes me and we begin a correspondence. And the correspondence lasts for several months. And then probably 5 months later, she decides, I'm going to come visit. Wow. And it's not romantic yet. We're friends. Yeah. And I'm publishing at the time. I'm writing, I think, about prison at that time. And she's helping me by typing because I can't do that in prison. So I'd send the handwritten stuff.
Wow. And she would type it out.
And she would type. And that she's getting to know my work. And then we visited and we fell in love in a prison visiting room. And that's how we got married.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. And you got married how soon after that?
So we got married on June 24th, 2003. And so the high school reunion was at 2002. So about a year, I'd say, a courtship through mail. And then she moved to New Jersey.
You got married when? June
24th, 2003.
I got married in June 24th, 2006.
Oh, yes, your anniversary.
3 years after you, yeah.
So that leads to, and of course, when she comes into my life, she's going to get me out of prison. Yeah, that's her mindset. I said, you're not going to get me out of prison. I'm not getting out of prison. This is George Bush now is in the White House. And I said, it's very tough, but I said, I'm going to build my life around this and we're going to find a way. And I had some money then. This is when I saw my money from the stock market. So I'm supporting her. And so she's helping me and we have to figure out something for her to do. So she came up with the idea of becoming a nurse because she said her mom was a nurse and said I could work anywhere if I'm a nurse. And that's so I said, great, let's use all the money I earned for you to become a nurse.
Oh, that's so great. You're paying for education. That's amazing.
Yeah. And she paid for me because she gave me this life. And then I really start to grow in these, because now it's like, now I go to a camp
Mhm.
And when I'm in a camp, I start to change, start building my career.
Can I ask you something which may sound a little strange? That's not strange, but there's a lot of inmates who start new relationships with women outside of prison. Sometimes before, years before they even ever meet them in person. What does this mean for people who are in prison like yourself to be able to have a relationship with a new woman? And what is it that you think? I mean, in Carol's case, I think it was very obvious. You're an amazing human being, and I think she saw that and fell in love. But why do you think so many women fall in love with men in
Well,
prison?
I always had women in prison. It was always a challenge. And so I never thought Carol would go the distance when I started. So it was always important for me to find women in prison.
And in prison, meaning outside of prison, or
Well, they were out and I was
or
in.
inside, because there are also inmates who have relationships with prison female staff, right?
Oh yeah,
That
that's
also
but that's a
happens.
crime.
Is it a crime? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
There was that famous case in Alabama where the prison staff woman helped the guy
the New York,
escape.
the Dannemora.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
There's a lot of that.
there was a
Venezuela,
chase.
Florida. There's a lot of those
Right, it
things,
happens
right?
a lot. Yeah.
Yes,
But that's what I'm asking. So that happens.
so
I'm sure that
I
is that
mean,
happening
it's
at your
still
prison?
a human being, men and women.
Wait.
You
Was that
mix.
happening at your prison as
Of
well?
course, it happens. Anytime you put
With female staff, I'm saying. Not,
yes,
okay.
anytime you put men and women together,
Right.
there's that possibility of chemistry.
Right.
Okay, and a prisoner can give enormous attention to a woman that she doesn't get a lot of times. So that artificial environment, if she's got sadness or something in her life, she's vulnerable to somebody who would say, "Oh, if you were my girl, I would never do that to you," right? And so, really,
It's interesting because it's so much. I've done a lot of work on romance scams.
yeah,
That's very similar. Scammers
I would imagine so.
spend a lot of time. Like they have whole hours of the day, the whole day.
But in prison, it's even more because I mean, I am with a staff member more than sometimes her husband is with her because I'm working with her for 7 hours a day. We're this close, and you ask questions, and you talk, and then eventually there's if she's not vigilant, it can become probably more personal than it's supposed to be.
Right.
And that does happen.
Right.
I never had a relationship with a staff member like that
I remember
because it was too dangerous.
Right. It's dangerous, but
If you
it's
get
very
caught-
helpful and it's very beneficial for the people. And it can be, I guess, because what I heard, and you're telling me that it's illegal. I actually didn't know, but it makes sense. I remember interviewing a guy here, a gang.
It's illegal for the woman, for
Right,
the guard.
of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interviewing a gang member here in LA, and he was telling me he spent time in prison as well. And he was telling me that the first thing you want to do when you get in prison is try to figure out which woman you're going to make fall in love for you, because then she can start bringing in contraband. I mean, I don't think it happens all the time, obviously, but that's what
There's a story of a journalist. The book is called The Man. And I was in prison with a guy and he was serving life. And, I had girls, women. I mean, I was young, so they were young, my contemporary. I'd typically meet them through my school because I have to call the school and I get the library and that's how I would meet women from school. College students.
While you were in prison.
While I was in prison. And I remember one guy who was serving a life sentence, Gene Fisher is his name. He told me about a book where there was an Italian race car driver who got involved in some crime, and a journalist came to see him, and they fell in love, and he got out. I just remember saying, "Wow, get married in prison! What an amazing thing that would be." And then, that became a very kind of I wouldn't say it became a goal of mine, but it was always important to have women because it's what makes a man feel alive.
So I love what you said. I'd never thought about that. It's because an inmate, a person in prison has so much time on their hands to put that attention on women.
And I would not even say he's doing something disingenuous or trying to do a scam. He's just lonely.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe he's not lonely, but he doesn't want to be alone.
Right.
Maybe that's a better way of saying it. He just wants to feel like a man. The story of Pinocchio. A lot of people think of Pinocchio, they only think of the story of he lies, his nose grows. But there was another theme on it that he was a wooden puppet and he just wanted to be a boy. I just wanted to be a man. That's all I wanted, was to be a man. And a man sometimes is defined by having a woman, or at least that's how he's defining it. I want to take care of a woman. I want to be with a woman. I want a woman to fall in love with me. And that was so important all through prison.
Right. It's taking back a little bit of the humanity, right?
It's anything they say I can't do, I needed to find a way to do. And that got me through all the way through the journey. It was whether it was fitness or writing or getting a college degree or becoming an author or finding a girlfriend or making money.
Mhm.
All of these things to me were ways of saying, prison's not going to define me.
Mhm.
I'll find a way. And I'm not going to be defined. You know, it was always a goal that says, I'm going to walk out of prison, be able to put on a suit and tie, and nobody will know I served a day in prison
Mm.
unless I told them.
Mm.
And that was always a goal. So I don't want to come out and, you know, people make different choices. For me, I didn't want to have tattoos on my neck, and I don't have any tattoos. And I wanted to learn how to communicate, and wanted to learn how to business and everything. I just didn't want this to be the defining moment of my life.
Mhm.
And so that drove me
Mm.
all the way through prison.